We've got a small WNBA slate on the 4th of July, and honestly, it's not the kind of board that makes you feel great about the scheduling. But even with the setup not being ideal, there are still a couple of spots worth breaking down if you're looking at team form, recent results, and how these matchups have played out. So let's get into it and keep the focus on the teams themselves, what they've done lately, and where the betting angles still make sense. First up, Golden State against Atlanta. This is a matchup we've seen a lot recently, and that alone makes the scheduling feel a little overloaded. These two teams have already played twice in the last week, and now they're right back at it again. That kind of repetition usually means the teams know each other pretty well, and it also means you can lean more heavily on recent form and current rhythm than on anything surprising. Golden State comes in with real momentum. They've won 3 straight, and the biggest reason they've been able to build that run is defense. Over those last few games, they've held opponents to low scoring totals, including repeated strong defensive efforts against Atlanta. That kind of form matters in a rematch spot because it gives you a clear identity to trust. Atlanta, on the other hand, has been inconsistent and is coming off a rough collapse in its most recent game. They had control, then lost it, and that kind of result usually raises questions about how stable the team really is right now. The Dream can still create some problems, but they haven't looked clean enough to be laying a bigger number with confidence. That's why the strongest angle here is Golden State plus the points. The market asking Atlanta to cover a larger number feels a little aggressive given how these teams have been trending. I'd also lean over 161.5, because both teams have shown enough scoring volatility that a number this low can still get pushed upward if Golden State stays competitive. Next up, Portland against Seattle. This game has a very different feel, but the same general problem applies. The board does not inspire a ton of confidence. The Fire have already played the Storm once this year, and that game was close, with Portland winning at home by 5. That matters because it tells you these two teams can stay in the same range when they meet, even if the records and recent results are not pretty. Portland has been in rough form overall, but they still have enough competitiveness to make this a live underdog spot. The numbers suggest they can stay within the number, especially if Seattle comes in vulnerable after a recent home-heavy stretch. That is exactly the kind of situation where a favorite can look a little too comfortable and get pulled back into a closer game. Seattle, meanwhile, has been strong at home, but that also creates a tricky market dynamic. When a team is being asked to lay points in a game where the matchup has already produced a close result, you have to be careful not to assume the home environment will solve everything. The Storm may be better at home, but that does not automatically make them a safe favorite by margin. The best side here looks like Portland plus the points. I'd also lean over 169.5 because neither team gives off the kind of defensive stability that usually makes a total like that feel secure. This has the feel of a game that stays messy and competitive. And that's the main reason this slate is tricky. You've got two teams that have already seen each other multiple times, which makes it harder to find a fresh angle. And you also have another game where the underdog is being asked to do a lot of heavy lifting just to stay inside the number. That's not the kind of card where you want to force action simply because games are on the schedule. Sometimes the smartest move is to look at the board honestly and accept that not every matchup deserves a full swing. If you're looking strictly at team identity, Golden State has the cleaner defensive profile and the stronger recent momentum, while Portland carries the more natural underdog appeal in a matchup that has already shown it can stay close. Atlanta and Seattle are the teams being priced more like reliable favorites, but neither one feels completely comfortable enough to blindly trust. That is why the dog side holds more appeal in both games. When the market leans toward the favorites in spots like this, it usually pays to ask whether the favorite is actually controlling the matchup or just getting the benefit of reputation. The bigger picture is pretty simple. When the teams in a game are showing this much recent inconsistency, you want to lean on the ones that have proven they can stay in the fight. Golden State has done that by showing a clearer defensive identity and stronger form. Portland has done that by already proving it can keep things tight in this matchup. That gives those sides the better betting value, especially in a slate where confidence is harder to come by and the safer read is often the one that respects the current shape of the teams. Final card. So here's the board for today. Golden State plus the points makes sense because the recent form and defensive profile are pointing in their direction. They've won 3 straight, and the key thing that stands out is how well they've been defending lately, including holding Atlanta down in multiple recent meetings. Even if Atlanta has the better reputation on paper, Golden State has been the team showing a clearer identity and enough fight to stay inside the number. The over in Valkyries versus Dream fits because both teams have already shown that this matchup can produce scoring swings, and the line is not especially high for two teams that have been a little volatile. Golden State has not always been reliable offensively, but that inconsistency can actually help an over if Atlanta does its part and the game stays competitive. If the Dream are expected to control the game but Golden State keeps answering enough to hang around, that creates a path to the over. Portland plus the points is the same kind of logic. They already played Seattle once this year, and it was a close game, with Portland winning at home by 5. That earlier result shows Portland can stay competitive in this matchup, and when a team has already proven it can keep things tight, getting extra points becomes more attractive. The over in Fire versus Storm is tied to the same general idea. Both teams have shown enough scoring and enough defensive inconsistency to make a moderate total feel reachable. Portland has been in rough form, but the games with Seattle have already shown they can be competitive, and Seattle being asked to lay points can help keep the game from slowing down too much. In short, the picks lean toward the teams that have been harder to push around, while the totals lean on the idea that neither matchup looks like a clean defensive slog. The biggest theme today is that the teams with the clearer recent form and the more reliable game identity are the ones that stand out most. Golden State has been the better defensive team lately, and that gives them a real chance to stay inside the number even if Atlanta has the stronger reputation on paper. Portland has already shown it can stay competitive against Seattle, which makes the dog side more appealing there as well. Atlanta and Seattle may still look like the more established teams, but in a slate like this, the better betting value sits with the teams that have been harder to push around and more willing to keep games tight. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like, subscribe, and share it with somebody who's betting these games tonight. It really helps the channel grow, and it makes a huge difference in helping me keep these daily picks and breakdowns coming for you. I appreciate every bit of support, and it means a lot to keep building this with you all. I'll be back with more picks, more breakdowns, and more value in the next one, so make sure you stay tuned. Catch you in the next video.